Edward VIII is best remembered as the British king who in 1936 gave up the throne to marry the woman he loved, American divorcee Wallis Simpson. But recently, FBI files have been declassified. They reveal a more damning legacy. That Edward VIII and Wallis Simpson were pro-Nazi. That they maintained contact with Hitler's Germany throughout the war, giving away secrets to the enemy. That Edward planned to return to England as Hitler's puppet king. Britain has been waging war against Nazi Germany for a year and a half. Winston Churchill is desperate for the United States to join the Allies. President Roosevelt is sympathetic, but he knows the American people need a lot of persuading. They both fear that their plans for an alliance could be jeopardized by the Duke and Duchess of Windsor. They're outspoken, pro-German, and about to set foot in Miami. Roosevelt instructs the FBI to spy on the most famous couple in the world.
Roosevelt knows that they're dangerous, and he has the FBI follow them about and intercept their mail, and there's a very large security operation.
To the public, they couldn't be more glamorous. To the authorities, they couldn't be more dangerous.
He'd always admired Hitler. He was, frankly, very pro-Nazi.
In America, there is a powerful lobby against joining the war. Churchill can ill afford any negative publicity from the Windsors. So on their arrival in Miami, a PR man is assigned to muzzle any remarks they might make.
The Duchess and I are naturally very glad to set foot in America again.
So every move they make is monitored. Even their dry cleaning is inspected. Now, FBI files running to 227 pages have been released under the Freedom of Information Act.
For some time, the British government has known that the Duchess of Windsor was exceedingly pro-German in her sympathies and connections. And there is strong reason to believe that this is the reason why she was considered so obnoxious to the British government. They refused to permit Edward to marry her and maintain the throne.
The FBI were fed their information on the Windsors from British intelligence, who in 1935 had taken the unprecedented step of following the couple. The Duke was then the Prince of Wales and heir to the throne. Special Branch knew that his lover, Wallis Simpson, was not only married and once divorced, but they also believed she was promiscuous. Their files record,
"She was regarded as a person very fond of the company of men, and to have had many affairs. She was with different men at these addresses."
The British Secret Service were watching the Windsors pretty closely and reporting on their every movement.
Through their surveillance, they uncovered the fact that Wallis was introducing the heir to the throne to a range of unsavory characters. Edward and Wallis were introduced to an ambitious German diplomat called Joachim von Ribbentrop. Hitler had appointed Ribbentrop to be Germany's special envoy to Great Britain, with the task of building a strong alliance between the two countries. And according to the FBI files, it wasn't long before von Ribbentrop and Wallis started an affair. This is confirmed in an interview given to the FBI by a close German relative of Edward's, Duke Karl Alexander of Württemberg, who had become a priest.
He knew definitely that von Ribbentrop, while in England, sent the then Wallis Simpson 17 carnations every day. The 17 supposedly represented the number of times they'd slept together.
There were widespread rumors that they were romantically involved, and I don't think it's possible to prove that was the case, but that was certainly the buzz in these circles.
What is clear from the FBI files is that Wallis would stay in contact with Ribbentrop for many years to come, and this would prove invaluable to Hitler, who would now set about forging a link with Prince Edward, the heir to the British throne.
Hitler was trying to develop a relationship with Edward with the goal of ultimately manipulating him, using him to form this Anglo-German alliance.
Wallace's continuing relationship with Ribbentrop would prove to be dangerous. Ribbentrop would rise quickly through the ranks, becoming Hitler's foreign minister. Prince Edward's affair with Wallis Simpson would lead him to sacrifice his crown and be ostracized from the royal family. These newly released FBI files show how close he would come to betraying his country. Long before Prince Edward fell under Wallis Simpson's spell, he was the most eligible bachelor in the world. A fearless horseman, athlete and pilot, he gave a sheen to the monarchy not seen before, entrancing the British public.
He wore these sort of rather ridiculous clothes, and he winked awfully well, and he grinned slyly out of the side of his mouth, and everybody rather loved it, you know.
He was good-looking and boyish and approachable and charming, and the crowds loved him.
He was at the forefront of fashion, popularizing his very own Windsor knot.
He was a handsome playboy with a lot of charm, and a wonderful contrast to his father, King George V, who never cracked a smile at all, ever, and never told, as far as I know, a joke. If he did, I bet it was a very bad one.
Prince Edward was born on the 23rd of June 1894. His upbringing was harsh and disciplined, with spells in both the Royal Navy and the Grenadier Guards.
I think he'd got it into his head that he was a wonder boy, really, and that the duties were something that were put upon him.
Unlike his father, George V, Prince Edward liked to travel. One of his earliest trips was to Germany in 1913, where there were close family ties.
The family saw themselves as German. They were very comfortable speaking German at home, and Edward on several occasions referred to German as his mother language, as his Muttersprache.
But in 1917, Edward's father, George V, changed the family name from Saxe-Coburg-Gotha to Windsor.
This was an attempt to make the family appear more English, and of course they fabricated the name of Windsor. They took it from one of their castles, and it's purely invented.
Prince Edward made 16 tours to the far-flung corners of the globe. He became the face of the British crown abroad, and it made him enormously popular.
Let me emphasize his overpowering capacity when he chose to use it to make people practically fall down in his path and kiss his feet. The effect was remarkable.
His adventures abroad were captured on film, enthralling the British public, accustomed to the stuffy formality of a remote royal family.
He was mobbed. He was treated like Prince William today times 10. He was constantly having women fling themselves at him, and he was being cheered to the echo. And so as a result, of course, this is going to inflate his ego.
These images of Edward only told part of the story. He is said to have barely risen much before 11 o'clock, playing squash or golf by day, and smoking and drinking by night in the Embassy Club. Sir Alan Lascelles, his assistant private secretary, later wrote,
I camped and tramped with him across Central Africa, but by 1927 my idol had feet of clay. When we got news from Prime Minister Stanley Baldwin of his father's grave illness, the Prince said, I don't believe a word of it. It doesn't mean a thing. He went without a word and spent the remainder of the evening in the successful seduction of a Mrs. Barnes, wife of the local commissioner. He told me so the next morning.